Yeah, well, I mean, I'm recording from here on in, so you know, whatever you think. Those a crack on, aren't we?
Yeah, miserable. Start.
Okay, so welcome to this little chat, this little insight between Phil and I. Basically, what happens is every time I spend a bit of time or just have the slightest conversation with Phil, it just sort of turns out to be a little domino that ends up knocking down loads of big dominoes. And we thought, you know, people would benefit from just listening to these chats. And that's what this is about. It's something that we're going to do quite regularly. And basically the way it's worked is Phil sort of said, you know, where's the friction in your business right now? And, you know, what's kind of happening? And immediately I saw, you know, I've got this, at the minute, this employee paradox where my employees, and therefore obviously I know it's my responsibility, but they can't seem to either be A, consistent, or B, accept change. You know what I mean? And like, how can you possibly not be consistent or accept change? It's just a bit of a paradox. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we do that, Phil, what's good and new? What's been going on?
Oh yeah, it's been a busy period actually. I've just been fortunate enough to have a little breakaway. So I've been away skiing for a few days with my lovely girlfriend. Had a great time. And things are really sort of ramping up now. We're getting ready to scale the business up. So a lot of meetings about potential members of staff, making sure we've got the infrastructure correct, which I think is going to tie into the conversation we're going to have, to make sure we've got really good foundations, to make sure that transition's as smooth as possible. Phil's off preparing for the Master Practitioner course, our first one, which is running week after next. So yes, it's just a general busy period. So how's your business been, Craig?
Yeah, it's good. We're same again. You know, 2017 is going to be a huge year for all of us, I think. One thing that we did around Christmas time is we really started to drill down into like policies and procedures and all this kind of stuff. And this is what's brought about this sort of paradox, really. We're trying to get, on one hand, consistency, on the other hand, you know, get people to accept the idea of change. I mean, you know, the slightest thing, right? We've got to move this fridge because health and safety. We've got to take reasonable steps to be safe, and we can be more efficient. But it's like, oh no, but I always have the fridge there, and so a lot of that. Yeah, a few changeovers in staff, which again is quite exciting because you get to sort of review everything you're doing, don't you? So yeah, very similar sort of stuff, really.
So you talked about two things there in terms of resistance to change and sort of stability, sort of consistent performance. Which one comes first for you, or which one's a priority?
The consistency, I think. A guy once came to camp. He came to sort of stay with us, and he said to us, and it's something that always rings out, and Paula and I say it to each other all the time, and he says, if you're not, you know, if you're not careful, if you don't work hard to maintain the standards that you set, your business will always gravitate down, right? And I was like, yeah, I can kind of see that. You know, when you sort of, it sometimes feels like when you turn your back, or you know, you just sort of think, okay, well, I can have a bit of a breather now, and then you turn around, and then for some reason, you know, and then it's dropped down. And at the end of the day, it's people, you know, and people do some pretty wacky things sometimes. So it's definitely the consistency. Then my prime example is the kitchen, you know, where getting the chef to be consistent with the food prep, the way that he runs the budget, you know, all this kind of stuff. And because it's tough, innit, in business, because you say, right, this is what we provide, this is what we do, and people buy that based on those expectations. When you don't have the consistency, then you start getting problems because you're not kind of meeting, you know, the things that you've set out. So definitely the consistency.
All right, cool. So if somebody was to be consistent, so all the different branches of your business and the jobs they're doing, what's that consistency mean to you, and what's it look like to you, and what's the differences or similarities of the way they look at that?
Yeah, I think immediately I sort of think, I don't know if you can sort of zoom in, zoom out. It's that big picture, little picture type thing. Consistency for me is that each meal has the right amount of protein, right amount of carbohydrates, you know, the right amount of fats. It also means that there's also, you know, variety in the meals, and that it's consistently of a good standard and all this kind of stuff. And I get the impression that as long as the chef is there, he's been consistent. It's like almost, well, I've turned up, I'm on time, what are you talking about? But, so it's almost that real granular stuff. Even things like, I think that being consistent is you have a spoon and the spoon lives in this drawer and everyone knows where the spoons live, so we can consistently make sure it's there and all this kind of stuff. And it's almost like, well, as long as there's a spoon in the kitchen, I'm being consistent. So,
Yeah, and you're absolutely right in terms of consistency. Is the fact that they're turning up probably 5 or 10 minutes before start of work and producing the meals, and I turn up on time, I'm clean as an expectation. There are different standards of consistency. So when we've talked over the last few years now, when we've worked on a massive level of self-awareness, what is it about you and the way you operate and the way you think that sometimes makes you perceive others in the way they perform? And how can you go about that, working with these individuals with that level of knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's not in my conscious awareness. I take very little sort of interest or responsibility for the running of the house and the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. But I find myself getting sort of dragged into it just by proxy, really. And it's definitely friction.
Okay.
So, what is it that I do? I think it boils down to sort of, well, I'm reluctant to get involved, to be honest. Purely because we are a partnership. Paul and I are a partnership, and therefore we can't each be responsible for each person does. We've got to split and separate. You know what I mean? And focus our energies in our own little partnership. So I don't know if that explains it. Or...
What do you mean by getting sucked in? You feel getting sucked in? Is that externally or intrinsically driven?
A bit of both. Like I feel, I want to have the consistency in it and know that relates, and that's a direct reflection of us as business owners. But and the other thing is that quite often there's no one else that's going to take that on. You know what I mean? Paula's having a down day, or she's not there, or whatever. No one else is going to take. A prime example is like the recycle. The bins came. The recycle bin. They wouldn't empty the recycle bin because somebody threw a load of food waste in the recycle bin. The guy who did it is now left. Who else is going to get in the bin, drag all the food out, you know what I mean, and sort these bins out? And it's like, well, I can't expect Paula to do it. The trainers are training, the chefs are cooking. So, you know what I mean? And that's kind of a prime example that if they'd have been consistent and made sure the food went in the right bins and, at the right time and all this kind of stuff, then that wouldn't have happened. And it's quite a menial task, isn't it? You know what I mean? I don't, you hope that I don't have to walk into work every day and check that the bins have been done right. Maybe you do.
So I suppose the one thing that jumps out, let's just take that one menial thing there in terms of, would you reckon that was deliberate?
I don't think so. I don't think it's deliberate at all. I think what's happened is the food waste bin was full, and that was the next logical thing. We'll just chuck it in there. It doesn't really matter. So I don't think it was a deliberate thing. I don't think there's anything malicious in it. If that's.
So that's obviously quite a small thing, but obviously who was time and has a knock-on effect to the cleanliness, the hygiene, etc. around the camp there. What are you doing within your processes and procedures then to try and give some best guidelines and advice to the human in the chain? Because the human in the chain is, you can't plan for humans.
Yeah.
Although we like to think we can, we've got to give some sort of structure and framework that is guidelines of how people should perform, and therefore hold people account to it.
Yeah. Well, there isn't anything really of waste management beyond make sure the bins are emptied, recycling goes there, food waste and that goes there. There isn't a if the waste bin is full, then this. You know what I mean? So that's obviously something that I could action and then sort of back brief on that. But
yeah, so I think that's a positive outcome from it. In terms of taking the classic lessons learned and going, right, what would happen if it was happening again? Well, we can obviously, the best practice is to prevent it from happening again. But if it should be in that position again, what's the next step? So I think something to bolt to that, because this will just stop hoovering your time up, I'm guessing, is what you see yourself get sucked into.
Yeah.
So the the standardisation of performance then, is that across the whole company there, or because we've talked a lot about the kitchen at the moment?
Yeah, the kitchen's the biggest thing, where the biggest factor in the business where there is a lack of consistency. Like I said, we are going through like a staff change, and that's part of our big push this week, next couple of weeks.
My first question is that a problem?
It is a problem. It is a problem because you know, when it was a problem for me because when you get feedback from the clients, and it's like, look, you've got a great team, and these are actually, you know, what they say. You've got a great team. You know, you've got an amazing environment. You get great results, but you've got a bad apple in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're actually, you know, and that's happened a couple of times. The issue recently is we had one guy who's, like I say, he's leaving now. He had his eye on the door for the last couple of weeks. Or he's taking an eye off what he's doing. And so it was a case for us as like, right, let's get him moved on, and then with our new team we can crack on. So, but it is friction. If I could say, right, okay, do I trust the training part of the business? Yes, it still needs some managing, and I need to keep an eye on stuff and all this. Do I trust the house side of things implicitly? You know, they're fantastic at what they do. Do I trust the kitchen? No, not at the minute. So
what is it you can do then that's going to help with this new team starting? What is it you're visualising and that's going to help them to hit the ground running to make sure that you get this standardised level of performance you're after?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, we basically set the standard. You know, we involve them in the process of like creating these or refining these procedures, because we've got procedures. You know, we've got paper procedures. We just need to turn them sort of into reality, and then also look at the assumed tasks. There's loads of assumed tasks, isn't there? Like, I assumed if the food bin was full, then they wouldn't just chuck it in the recycling, because they know, you know what I mean. But obviously, those assumed tasks can be quite dangerous. Like,
start mind reading what you think other people do. You think they think the same as you. If it was the next logical step to you, maybe slightly different for them. Yeah. So put some practice in place. Oh, that's good. What else then about standardisation, do you think, from the kitchen? Is there anybody else that can help and support you to create that sort of policies and procedures for them? Yeah,
well, obviously, you know, Paula is my partner, and then also the chefs, the housekeeping, even the trainers, you know, because even other members of staff go in there to get the food and all that kind of stuff, and I don't think they particularly help. You know what I mean? It's if it's the other way around, if the chef come out and started throwing kettlebells around, you know, the trainers would be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? If you're going to take a kettlebell out, put it back in the carrot. But it doesn't work the other way. So a little bit of work on that. Yeah, and I think it's, you know, it is in our awareness right now. So we're going to progress on it.
That's good.
We're putting a board up, so we've got like the policies and procedures on the board, and then obviously what needs to happen then is we need to be consistently checking, you know, and reviewing.
What's your options of making everybody aware in terms of what the expectations are, what's worked really well in the past, what maybe is slightly being tweaked and didn't work, and then what we're looking forward going future? Because if you look at the past, present, future steps, what opportunities do you have to maybe make sure they're on the same page and understanding especially the reason why it works and why you know that's a proven part of the business model?
How do I get them points across? Or
what opportunities do you have?
Yeah, we've got loads of opportunity. We have our welcome, our morning meeting, you know, a little morning stand-up meeting where we could go into a little bit there. We use Trello to, you know, disseminate information and policies and procedures and all that kind of stuff, so we can send it through on that. We could do like a little staff mail shot, you know. I could send out a little mail shot to everybody so they kind of grasp it. Make them aware of the board, you know what I mean, our procedures on the board and all that kind of stuff. So there's loads of ways to get it out there.
What would be, so if you got ways of disseminating that information, what would be the next logical step for you once you know they're aware of it? If you were briefing them up, what's the next logical step?
the next logical step, well, I'd be saying, you know, let's run it for a week, and then we'll check it in a week, and then, you know, and then sort of review it.
Yeah, review it. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity as well just to check understanding, maybe, you know, within a day or two later of, you know, just simple asking questions, or buddy people up, whatever it needs to be, in terms of trying to get it ingrained in the DNA again.
Yeah.
Obviously had past where it was a slick machine. But with those processes, buddy, checking of understanding, and then constant reminders to a certain degree, even just dropping it in, because I know what happens in business. You have those morning meetings and they just become for the sake of meetings. We could be quite tactical with the subjects within those meetings, rather than, you know, just what's your plan for today, okay, let's just have a refresher of what's around this and how can we build on it, because the second element of this conversation was around about accepting change. But it's almost like trying to change, you know, the building infrastructure of a house if you haven't got the foundations right.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna be on a constant vicious circle. I feel like you're chasing your tail a little bit, I think, and maybe there's an opportunity there, just rather than coming in a week later or 2 weeks later to check. You know, you're coming across sometimes, or could be arguably you're coming across as a bit of a school teacher, boss, you know, parent, sort of ego state, rather than working with them. Because I know you've got a very mature working relationship there where everybody's part of the team. So maybe some of the guys there may respond a little bit differently to that.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. No, I mean, one thing I've got from this conversation, well, I've got a few things, but one thing is, you know, the realise that I can't fight it. You know what I mean? I need to have some input in this to sort it out. Otherwise, I'm going to be in the skip, dragging shit food out of the skip every day. I refuse to do that. So, and then, you know, the other thing is me realising that I'm not good, or haven't been good in the past, of going, right, do these people understand that? You know, is my perception of what I've said, does it match theirs, you know? And to do some questioning around that and just to explore, to see what their idea of it is a good step, like, and something that I need to be doing, because ultimately, in the past, our expectations have not matched, you know. My thing there is, I mean, I think, and I'm obviously wrong, but I think some things, for example, a varied nutrition plan. So that doesn't suggest that you would serve the same meal 2 days in a row, but that happened. You know what I mean? So you sort of look at some things and go, and I suppose this is something, you know. So what we should have done there is gone, I should have tackled that. To be honest, I didn't know it. I wasn't there, but you know, we should tackle it and go, why is this? Why do you think that's acceptable or whatever? And you know, I don't think I haven't been good in the past of sort of playing that bit of a boss role.
Yeah, I think, and maybe, you know, we talked about the paradox of the members of staff. There's probably a paradox with you as well, I think, in terms of, you know, they will certainly be looking at you, regardless of how well you come across as a mate. You're the business owner. You know, you have in the past lived there. You know, the person who runs the day-to-day running is your wife, so you are seen as the boss. And then sometimes that relationship you have is almost a little bit too close sometimes, where somebody's either reluctant to be submissive or told to be somebody, just go, well, actually, that's not acceptable. Just, you know, that's not what the clients want. At the end of the day, the clients are the paying clients. They're the ones that pay all of our wages. So I think moving forward, let's not do that again, because the feedback's all that matters is the feedback from the clients. And if the feedback's not right, you know, obviously we need to take some of it with a pinch of salt. But if it's something as simple as that, then just talk me through your thought process.
Yeah.
You know, it might have been, you know, his intentions may have been, well, I didn't want to waste food, you know, I didn't want to throw stuff away, my budget is a bit tight this month, and go, well, actually, that's a conversation you need to have, that, you know, rather than you serving the same meal, and I'd rather you throw away that 20 quid worth of meat than get negative feedback, because what's it worth to me? And that helps with the level of understanding, potentially.
It's a tough one for our instance, because it's a bit like having a pub and letting the drunks run the bar. You know what I mean? Because we provide sort of healthy, nutritious food, but we've got a load of fast food junkies. Yeah. So if we give them power, before long they'll be eating chips and, you know, bangers and mash and all this kind of crap. But so what we've done in the past is we said, right, okay, these are this is what we stand for. So they can't come, the tail can't wag the dog, you know what I mean? We've got to, but I think what's happened with the guy that's just left, he's taken that and gone, right, I'm always right, whatever I do is, you know, so, and I've got this buffer where I can just say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. So, but no, I've got some good little, I know how to progress. I know how to progress now. I know what to expect. I know that this isn't going to be like a rapid fix. It's going to be a few weeks, if not longer, of like constantly managing and, you know, working this stuff out. And I do need to take things a step further. So it's all right saying, right, okay, well, put the rubbish in the bin at the close of play every day. What happens when that bin is full? You know, I need to do some if then type stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think I've got no doubt that once you've got the systems in place, it'll create a solid foundation. And then every change, then, I mean, people don't change things for the sake of it. People change things to improve things and make life easier and better for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and if that means that, you know, to get the health and safety and the environmental guys off your back, you've got to move the fridge, then there's no better reason than that, because it's going to cause a problem if we don't move it.
Yeah.
Therefore, we shut down and we don't get our bills paid and what have you. You know, it could be something as catastrophic as that. But I think questions are the answer. Having good conversations, and what it does do is sometimes when you have those levels of conversations, when you've got to come in and go, guys, you know, we've had this framework in place, we've agreed it, we're not sticking to it. We need to do it. This is not acceptable. I think people are more accepting of that approach than when maybe nothing gets said, nothing gets done, and then the big hammer comes in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, where's that from? I wasn't aware of that. Well, what's going on? And everyone's walking down eggshells.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that sort of behavioural flexibility, which we know, you know, the person with the most flexibility controls the situation. And I think from afar, you'll see a lot of small wins moving forward where make life easier for everybody, I think.
Chef's sort of funny one, like.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Yeah. Weird one. Yeah, cool. Yeah, and then I suppose, you know, once, like you say, you get them foundations right, and then the change just becomes a little bit easier because we've got something to measure it off, we've got something to work from. So, yeah,
it's
good.
And a compass, you've got to know where you're going first and where the foundations are, and as long as people understand the reason why and they feel like they've been involved or engaged with the change, then it becomes a hell of a lot easier. I think it's when you try and sort of build our house on quicksand is when you're going to really, really struggle. And then tell them, actually, we're going to build it over there now. We'll just start building it. We told you that at the start, potentially. And that's where the little voices start in the background, isn't it? So, no, I'm sure you'll get quick success straight away. Everyone on board.
Cool. All right. Well, we might just come back to that. We might review it in our next little chat. So, yeah. What else is going on?
I'm on the road. So I was on the road yesterday for a meeting in London. Worked from home today, tied up a few loose ends, and then got meetings Wednesdays and Thursday, and then back into London again Friday. So busy. Making the most of today, working from home, which is why great opportunity to do this little video today, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's all good. About yourself? How's the move and that going? It's all good.
The move's gone really well. Yeah. So we're in our little house now. We've just had a little litter of puppies. So, which is a nightmare. Talk about somebody changing. You know, when the reason why is big, when the why is big enough, the how doesn't matter. So previously, Paula, she's like 11, 12 hours of sleep a day. You know what I mean? She's a proper dormouse. We got these puppies. She's up 3 or 4 times a night at least checking these puppies, and you know what I mean. She's up at work now, but before she would have been like a zombie walking around with limited sleep. But she's just, and I look at it and just go, it's incredible how when the why is strong enough, the how just doesn't matter. You can
always find a way. I'm very, very resourceful. Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, you look at that, you tie that back to some of the things you've done in your life, especially. Probably the most common one, or the most recent one, is the MDS, isn't it? Why am I doing it? Because I want to prove to myself, and I want to go and finish, and obviously the secondary and third games of that. And you just one step at a time. It's phenomenal what the brain will do. The brain will give up on the body.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Hey, good times then, mate. Busy time.
Okay, mate. Well, thanks again for the chat. Thanks for the advice. I'll implement that, and then we'll sort of review it in the next one. And if you're watching these little videos, if you find them of benefit, or maybe you want to join in, or whatever, then give us a shout. But until then, take care.
Cheers, guys. Bye.